Okay, here we
And here we are.
Well, I'm ready to paint. Are you ready to paint?
Can we say hello to everybody first?
Yes, we can.
Don't jump the gun. I know it's like, let's paint. We got a couple comments already.
Nice. Oh, hi, Kim, and hopefully I'm saying this right, Valessa.
Oh, our camera battery is being weird. Just ignore that. Our other camera's good. We had a little battery issue. No, maybe we're back. No, we're not. Anyway, don't worry. Let's switch over. Switch the camera. You're just gonna hear us for a little bit. We've been having some interesting issues with the building this last week.
Well, we tripped a fuse a little bit ago.
Yeah, we tripped a fuse, and we have no heat in the building all week because we had a part in the furnace. So we are bundled up, and we have a space heater, which is why we tripped the fuse.
There we go.
Yeah. So that camera, the camera that we normally show on our faces, the battery's low, and our overhead camera is charged, so we're good.
Yep. Well, that's the important one.
That's the important one. So for those of you who are joining us, we are the Go Box. We are a monthly subscription box that sends out 2 paintings per month. We also have individual kits to purchase at any time, so you don't have to be a member of the special club, but it's very nice if you are a member of the special club.
Yeah, you can buy the individual projects if you don't want to commit to a subscription yet, or you can...
I'm just going to drum on my canvas so people don't think that was just like a blank screen, static image, anything like that.
So why is your hand not showing up on there?
There's a delay, you know that.
Okay.
It could be also that maybe we should ask people, are you guys seeing my hands on there? Oh, there they are. Wow, there's a big delay.
Yeah, it's a big delay.
It's probably a 20-second delay.
Happy Friday to you, Tiffany.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. We are doing great, other than we have some weird issues today with the heat being out and the blew a fuse because I used the teapot.
Well, we were making ourselves some nice
coffees
with some spirits in it, and because it's cold in here. So anyway, since you guys can't look at us, let's go ahead and get started. I know that looking at us is the primary reason you tune in, but anyway, so I'm going to go ahead, and here is our painting for today. It's called Emerald Isle. It is one that I think probably some of you are a little bit nervous about. Don't be nervous. This painting is actually, when we break it down into the individual steps, it's not too complicated. I would say probably the best piece of advice I can give about this painting and many other paintings similar to this is try not to think too hard about what you're doing, because it's very much an impressionistic painting. This area down in here is probably the most impressionist we've done in here. With the Go Box, and the key to there is to just kind of let the paint be and don't over fuss with it, and we'll get rocking and rolling. Oh, we got a first timer. Cheers!
Yeah, so this is Celeste.
Hello, Celeste.
Using her mom's account. First live meeting she's been able to attend. So
awesome.
That's great, yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to do this painting. If you have the subscription box, you've got the instructions. So that's one of the perks of being a subscriber is you do get the printed instructions, which are a nice little guide. This castle here is optional. I put it in just because it felt like it needed something. And originally we were going to do this on St. Patrick's Day, and then we remembered we're upstairs from an Irish pub.
Yeah,
so
they bang like a big drum.
And bagpipes, and they closed down the alley, and we just decided it was going to be too noisy and too much distraction. But anyway, let's toast, Jenny. Let's toast to all our new people that this is their first time. Let's toast to everybody. Hope you're having a great day. I'm not going to spill. I spilled my coffee earlier.
Yeah, you spilled it right all over his canvas.
Spilled right on my canvas.
So take us through this.
Where'd my brushes go? Here they are. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take our biggest brush. We do a lot of this painting with our big brush to start with, and then we kind of do some with our medium size. So let's get this out of here. And what we're going to do first is we're going to mix up a kind of a sky blue color. Now, to me, blue is, well, first I'm going to rinse my brush. But to me, blue is very... tricky to do in a sky and have it look right, because it's really easy to just pick, I'm going to mix light blue and paint the whole thing blue, and that works. It's just not quite as appealing as some other colors. So I'm going to start off though with some blue. I'm going to take a little tiny bit of turquoise.
Daniel's here. Hello, Daniel.
Hello, Daniel. And a touch of red, tiniest little dab of red, guys. Just a tiny small amount.
So blue turquoise and a tiny bit of red.
Yep, because all we're really doing is we're using that red to keep it from being too intensely blue. And then I'm going to add some white. So we're just kind of going for like kind of a dirty denim color.
You use that color name a lot.
I do, because people know what it means.
Did you wear a lot of dirty denim in like the 80s?
I had a Canadian tuxedo back in the day.
Mine's pretty close to yours.
All right, so I'm going to
swipe it right on there.
I'm going to use my coaster. I like this. I've been doing this lately. This is a good thing. I'm going to use it. You guys don't have to use it. You can eyeball it, but I like to kind of give myself like 3 little dashes measured up from the bottom.
You don't trust yourself anymore?
Oh yeah, no. And just going to go right across with this color. That's just going to establish our horizon line we're going to work towards. Now, a lot of times we work away from the horizon. In this case today, we're going to work towards it. And what we're going to do is we're going to need more of this paint as we go. And I like to just mix as we go. But I'm going to start up in this top left corner. And I really...
Oh, yeah, you didn't announce what the colors are.
Oh, yeah, sorry. We have our cobalt blue, turquoise, craft yellow, bright red, and white. We skipped out on the black this month. I think that's a good practice to get into, honestly. So if you're as you're mixing, if it feels too violet, too lavendery, you can obviously add a little bit more blue, a little bit more white.
Oh, Jody, too. You might have some of the, from past kits, you might have some of the colors left over. So you can definitely use that.
Yeah, we were emailing with Jody earlier today.
Yeah. Happy to see you on here. I'm running out of paint already.
Yep. I kind of mix as I go, typically. So, and really any variation of these colors mixed together is going to work. And we're just going to kind of work across the top. We're going to hit this up with some other colors and stuff later. And I'm going to get my brush a little bit damper, a little bit moister. Just keep mixing a little bit as we go. But as we work our way down, we're going to start adding more white. We really don't need to add much more of our color as we go down, mostly just white. Because what we're going to try to do here is to get this to the point where it fades out almost completely by the time we hit our horizon line. So what I like to do is I've kind of gone across with my band of blue, and then I'll start just a little bit below that, brush down, and you can kind of lift that color up into your sky a bit more. And you can see I'm being really meticulous to make sure this is perfectly blended and smooth, and yeah, no, not at all. Not at all.
Never with you.
No.
You and being smooth with your painting is like oil and water.
Totally different than my real personality.
I knew something like that was going to come
You
out.
got it. That's what I'm here for. And if you don't get that wide enough at your horizon line, it's okay. We're going to come back and add some warmth and glow, and that'll give us an opportunity to lighten that up a little bit more. It's better to have a little bit of color than no color at all.
So were you inspired by any particular place, or did you just make this up?
I mean, just Ireland in general. I mean, there was a couple that I worked on that were more specific, like it's a castle painting, and I just kind of decided, you know, that's too much. I think sometimes when we do buildings up close, it's too much going on, and it can get a little bit
Overwhelming.
frustrating. Yeah. Go ahead and brush right into your horizon, by the way. So it's okay if you...
I have a question for you.
Yes.
On your original, which I can't really see right now.
I can pull it back up here in a minute.
Is this like the background sky? Is it also clouds? Like, or is this supposed to be...
This is kind of be... So when I was thinking of this painting, and actually what I want to do with this one is make a slight little deviation
Okay.
from the instructions. Because there's one thing that I've been kind of fascinated with for a long time, and I kind of did it a little bit while I was developing the painting, and then I was like, ooh, I should have done this more. And that is having multiple layers of clouds. So, a lot of times when you go places and there's upper clouds and lower clouds, and they're two different shapes, types of clouds. I know the different names of clouds. You know them better than I do. And
Cirrus, stratus, cumulonimbus.
yeah, you know the names, but do you know which ones are which? Yeah.
I do actually.
Okay.
I remember that. That was from 10th grade science class.
Which is crazy because I was like, science was my jam. But anyway, this is a great painting to kind of get that. I can actually have a little bit more turquoise going on in here to get that going on.
Okay, so Kim says, I never see brush strokes in your paintings. Is it because of the way you use small strokes? They look really puffy. I tend to use bigger strokes and it's hard to get the puffy, fluffy look.
What are we talking about specifically with clouds?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so the clouds...
I know I'm putting on a decent amount of paint with the white.
Yeah, I'm doing that too. But when we're talking about doing clouds and there's brush strokes, I think it's deceptive because when you actually see them in person, there is a lot of brush strokes.
And if you lift this up, you can see there's
a
lot. And when it dries too, paint isn't as...
Yeah, so
opaque.
I'll show you, I'll bring this up close and you can see there's a lot of brush strokes going on in the finished one.
And I think one thing that helps too is using fairly light pressure. So I tend to use like a lot of paint in fairly light pressure.
Bang our camera around there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely when we start doing the edges of the clouds, I'll show you how we softly do it, and that's what'd she say?
I was laughing at Daniel's comment. In all of our paintings.
Yeah. I think a lot of that's just the trick of the camera.
It could be, yeah. But also I swear by like not pushing too hard when you're doing certain things.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, if you see, like when I paint, I use very little pressure on the brush unless I'm moving a lot of paint like we were just doing. Okay, so going into our next step, we're going to mix kind of a plum color. And to do that, we can just keep mixing here. I'm just going to take a little bit more blue, a little bit more turquoise, and a little bit more red. And we're just going to add more red.
Blue, turquoise, and red.
And you know what? Yeah, let's just leave it at that.
So Kim says, thank you. I think I'm too stingy with my paint. I can get that way sometimes too. And it's amazing though, like this is, we still have paint left in our bottles. And we did the 2 paintings last week, so he did one, I did one, and now we're doing these, and there's still paint left over. We could do 2 more canvases, so yeah, you can totally be pretty liberal with it.
You'll learn. Yeah. You'll just find it's like, especially when you're first starting.
You'll find your groove.
I think when we're teaching in person, that was it's the hardest thing to learn at first is how much paint to use.
So did we make dirty lavender now?
Dirty lavender.
Okay.
I called it kind of a plum.
Oh, that's good.
And we're going to start at the bottom, and this is kind of like if you think of this as being the horizon, then we're going to have ocean down to about here, and then we're getting into flats, like sandbar-y kind of flats when the tide is out and stuff like that. And so these shapes are just really, I'm going to kind of suggest the end of it, and really all I'm doing is, you can see I hold the brush pretty far back while I'm doing this, and I'm just kind of dabbing across. It doesn't have to be straight across.
Is this...
This is like the end of the sand. So this is like when the tide is out and we've got that little bit of sand and maybe there's little bits of water shining in wet spots and things like that.
So that's like the white canvas we're leaving for now?
Yeah.
Got it.
Got it going?
I do like that you do purple sand a lot. And sometimes the sand, like in the evening when it's wet, it does look kind of purplish here in Oregon.
Yeah,
depending on the beach.
Yeah, I think wet sand in general, it's like, if you do a wet sand color, I think it's a little bit predictable.
Yeah.
And so the purple, if you look at sand, at least where we're at, sand tends to have, especially wet sand, tends to have some purplish undertones to it. Or I should actually say grayish undertones, because we've got like a lot of black volcanic rock and stuff like that in our area.
Celeste says, I love my sky. It's going to be sad covering it up.
Oh, yeah. You know what? That's kind of like, you don't have to. Just because we are going to teach it that way, you can do what you want. So if you feel like you don't want to do clouds and sky, don't do it.
Then you've just created a new painting.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to keep working down in this area. And what I'm basically going to do is I'm just going to take now a little bit of white. Now let's add just a little bit of pink to it too. Just basically make kind of like a taupey kind of color. So a little bit of a little bit of our purple, a little bit of red, a little bit of white, and I'm just gonna kind of scribble.
Isn't that pink?
No, it's got a little bit of purple to it.
Okay.
Because I started by taking a little bit of our purple, adding a little bit of red, a little bit of white.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of working it into the areas that we missed. We can always chop this back up.
Kim says, where I live in Florida, our sand has a lot of purple because of the shells. Our sand is really all tiny shells and bits of shells. I bet that's so pretty. That's a state I've never been to. Someday.
Yeah. Oh, I've got a cousin that lives there. So.
Yeah. How's your weather there, Kim? Are you guys having... I know I listened to a podcast with these two women who are in Florida, and they said recently it was kind of cold there, which was unusual. And but I don't remember where they live in Florida.
So I want to talk real quick while we get that answer. I'm not trying to blend any of this out. Some of it hits each other and it's wet, so it will mix. But I'm really just kind of blotting to fill in the gaps. But I also want there to be a little bit of interaction with each edge, but I also don't want to get to the point where I'm just blending it out and it's just creating a big blob of neutral color. So this bottom inch or so, I'm not going to worry too much about. And we'll come back and we're going to touch all of this up. I might need a little bit more white.
Okay.
But not quite yet. I'm good for now. So I said might.
Putting more pink together? Now what are you doing there?
I just added a little tiny bit of yellow for this bottom edge part. And if that's something, if you want to really bring that sand color out, add just a little bit of yellow to this too.
This is everybody in the pool color.
Everybody in the pool, pretty much. But if you can see, and I'll tilt this a little bit, it's really pretty messy. That's what we want. That must have been Daniel saying something.
Yeah. He said some of our purplish sand comes from the shells from the mussels you find on the beach, but he spelled it like Muscle Beach mussels.
It's true.
Then spelled it the correct way. That's down in California. What is that? That beach? Venice Beach.
Yeah. So just to give you guys an idea, so I'm just kind of coming back and I'm putting in some of a little bit more of the dark because I lost it a bit. I did add a little tiny bit of yellow, and what the yellow does is purple and yellow are opposite on the color wheel. So what happens is when you take colors that are opposite on the color wheel and you mix them together, they tone each other down. So it keeps it from being so intensely violet. Okay. Turning violet.
I have a really quick off-topic question that I want to get out real quick for you that has nothing to do with painting.
That's scary.
Does Greta need to keep an eye on those fish at home?
No, I think they're fine.
Okay. Paul is trying to breed some betta fish.
Yeah.
One of his many million side hobbies.
Yeah.
And there's always the possibility they might kill each other.
There is.
I am going to have her check on them.
I would actually be more worried about Bellatrix, the murderess.
Well, her name is Bellatrix.
We named her Bellatrix because she jumped a barrier into another compartment with another fish and killed it almost instantly.
She's a Death Eater, completely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to keep working in our water. We're going to mix up this kind of color we did up here at the top again. So again, it's just a little bit of blue. We don't need very much. A little bit of turquoise, a dab of red, and let's add a little bit of white to it. And what we're going to do, it can actually use a little bit more white.
Kim says, yes, it was freezing at night. I've accumulated here, having originally been from New Hampshire. When it's really cold up north, we get it. Usually winter is over mid to late February. It's high 70s to low 80s. Wow.
So as I'm working into the blue into our water, I'm doing kind of the same thing, but I'm using just the tip of the brush, and I'm not pushing down very hard because I want this to leave little thin streaks and movements.
In Alaska, they don't really have sand, just fine gravel.
That's
Another
true.
state we need to go to.
Yeah, that one's close.
Wow,
not too far
Celeste, I
from
didn't
us.
know you were up in Alaska. That's cool.
All right, so just kind of lightly brushed in our blue. Now I'm going to take some white, kind of do the same thing we did below. Kind of hit some of these little gaps. Brush this all the way up to your horizon line as we're being kind of jaggedy.
I'm a little bit behind.
You're doing fine. If I get going too fast for any of y'all, just click pause, get caught up. The main thing on this, like this type of technique, is again, most of the time when people struggle is because they really try too hard, if that makes sense. And instead of just being really loose and kind of free and just kind of letting the brush do what it wants to do, people really try hard to manipulate what's going on. And the best thing to do is just let it sit there.
When I think a lot of times is this natural, we think about the outcomes. That's the one thing about kid painters. I taught kids classes for 10 years, and I at the same time, I teach a kids class during the day and then the adults class at night, and I found that kids they don't think.
They just do.
They just do. If you tell them we're going to paint this here, you can just do your part and turn around and they're all done staring at you. And I think we just almost have to go back to that when you're learning to paint. And that's how you'll learn, definitely, because you'll see what worked and what didn't without overthinking everything.
I think as adults, we've learned cause and effect.
Darn that.
So...
Well, it'll serve us good in some aspects.
Yeah, but what happens is when we start doing something like painting, we start worrying about the cause and effect instead of just thinking, whatever happens, I can adjust it. So I'm letting some of this kind of pull down over our sandy bit. So when I'm doing this, though, I'm making sure that as I do it, I'm not just creating like big blobs of color. It's more individual little chunks.
So like right up in here, are we thinking of like the edge of the waves coming in?
It's not really waves yet. Okay. We will get there. It's more of just kind of creating the foundation for that. So I always kind of think like when we're painting water, what we're painting is the depth and what's underwater right now, and then we'll put the surface on later.
Okay.
This painting's really so loose in this lower part that really anything you do is fine, and anything you do is going to work. I'm going to rinse my brush real quick. We are going to switch brushes for a second, and this is something that the reason we're switching brushes is not so much because we need to do fine detail. It's more that I want to control the amount of paint that goes onto the canvas more. And so what we're going to use is we're going to use our number 8 brush, which is a little more than a 1/4 inch wide, and I do need more white. We might have to go get more white. Do you have enough white?
I need some more.
I think we might need to go get another jar.
Oh, okay. I'll go grab one. So the white didn't last us.
No, I mean, I could probably scoop some out of here.
No, it's alright.
But what we're going to mix up is we're going to mix up a real pale peach color. So I'm going to take a little bit of white, a small little amount of red, some yellow. And I need more white. There we go. And what we're going to do with this is going to create some warmth in our sky. And I think I need a little bit more white because I'd rather start too light than too dark. I'm reading what Daniel's saying about the drive to the capital of Alaska. It's a long drive. Jenny, are we ill prepared for tonight? Did we not give ourselves enough white?
Oh, I'm getting white wine, actually.
Jenny is getting wine instead of white. She must have misunderstood
I'm
me.
getting white wine.
White wine.
Here, I got you a cider.
Okay, sweet. I need more white paint first.
Okay.
All right. Sweet. I know some of you guys got marshmallows instead of white paint earlier in the year.
Yeah, we found, we've tested, I think, 3 or 4 different varieties and brands of white paint.
And they all do it.
They all freeze in
Yeah.
certain temperatures, and they become like, you open it up and it's like marshmallow cream.
So acrylic paint is a water-based paint, and so because of that, it is subject to freezing, and it just seems that most of our colors do okay, but the white changes into a rubbery consistency. So, but luckily I didn't hear too much about that. All right, so I'm going to take most of my paint off the brush. I just want a little bit, so I'm just going to kind of brush it off, and I'm going to start kind of out on this left-hand side up in our sky, and it's just the smallest amount of paint.
Oh, I missed what colors you mixed if you want.
It's just a little tiny bit of red, yellow, and some white. It's just creating a very pale peach color.
Huh, it almost makes raw sienna.
It almost does. Raw sienna would have worked for this better. Raw sienna and white, but hey, we're trying to not be wasteful and use too many colors. And this color is, since you're going over the top of the blue, you're not going to get like a green.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be a concern if you go too much yellow. But really, it's just kind of.
We know Ireland doesn't get a lot of sun.
Right? It's pretty much just like Oregon, I think.
I think it is probably
like the Oregon
very
coast.
similar, yeah.
Yeah.
Kim, I always see or hear the advertisements for Wild Alaskan Company on the 48 Hours podcast, and I'm always like, that sounds so good. So I would love to know how you like doing that. It seems like you said they're delicious. I think that's really cool. It's also like a subscription box, I think.
So I'm going to do a little bit more on this left-hand side. I'm kind of starting in these like little corners and just kind of coming through here. And it doesn't show up very much on the camera, which is good because we just want it to be very soft and subtle. We don't want our sky to all of a sudden just be this like bright peach.
Oops.
You know, we want some warmth, but we don't want it to be overwhelming.
My paint's just trying a little too fast to do what you're doing.
And if I'm going to do a little zoom in here, see if I can get this to show. You can see it's not like it's crazy. It's just, it's uneven, it's brushy, it's all kinds of messiness, letting some of the white show too. We are doing pretty good here. Just little hints. Again, we don't want this to be like really like over dominantly like, wow, it's yellow or it's peach. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and rinse my brush. We're gonna,
Uh-oh, what fell? Oh, it's your big guy. You've got long legs, you can do it.
drop my brush. Ugh. Okay. I got it. It was clean, so. Want to get this brush really nice and clean. So get all the pigment out of it you can. Because it's okay if it's, a little bit of pigment. It's not going to hurt. But what we're going to do is I'm going to bring the big painting back, the finished painting. One of the things I put in here that then kind of got lost. This is that upper level clouds I was talking about. You see a little hint of one hanging out here. And it was kind of an afterthought. But I want to go ahead and put some of those in. And actually, we'll go back and let's use that brush we were just using for the sky. So let's use our number 8. So get it nice and clean.
Wow.
What?
That Wild Alaskan Company, there's no fish smell after cooking. That's really good. Nice and fresh.
Cool.
Paul doesn't like salmon either.
Not a fan. I grew up with a dad who went salmon fishing all the time, so our house always smelled like salmon. And
I do like steelhead better than salmon, but I like salmon too.
So we're going to take our number 8. We're just going to take some pure white, and I'm just get the paint kind of on the side of the brush a little bit, more so than the tip of the brush. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to...
Charlotte, are there any tips on how to save your paint if you need to take a break in between the start and end of the painting? I would say, depending on if you're using like a paper plate for a palette, or even like what we're using, these sort of things, you could put a sheet of saran wrap over it.
Yeah, loosely.
Loosely, yeah. So you don't want it to necessarily... It can touch the paint a little bit, but everywhere it touches the paint, it's going to take paint off when you take it off. So, but yeah, that's the way to do it. And you can also mist your palette with a little bit of very fine water. So like an atomizer or like a plant mister is perfect. In fact, Blick Art Supply sells an atomizer for like $2. It's just a little plastic spray bottle that puts out a really fine mist.
So all we're doing with this white is we're just kind of creating some really wispy
You're welcome.
Little shapes, and it doesn't have to be anything real specific. This is not in the instructions, but this will look really cool when we're all done. You can even do some at a different angle if you want to. And what I do is I kind of just loosely put it on and then just kind of wipe my brush off and just kind of come back and just kind of fluff it out.
Yeah, Daniel, these are airtight, but I think she means like if you had to walk away for a little bit while painting.
You've got a bunch of paint on your palette. And
you're like, you're going to be back to it in an hour. Somebody needs your attention right now.
Yeah, the other thing is that would be a great time to have a palette knife and scrape it back into your jar if you've got something like that. So all I'm thinking about is this is I'm not really thinking about cloud shapes. These are just some of these upper level atmospherical things. We're going to paint over a lot of this, so if it feels a little bit awkward, that's okay. Next step, I'm going to double check our cheat sheet, is going to be starting some of these clouds. So what we're going to do first is this next step is going to be twofold. There's a couple things that are going on. If you feel like maybe you've got too much, I'm kind of getting a little scatterbrained here a little bit, but if you feel like you've got too much of your kind of golden glow, you can always take in a little bit of this white. I think one of the things that it makes a sky look really dramatic in a painting is a lot of texture. So we're not used to seeing paintings or thinking about putting a lot of texture in skies. If you really think about it, there is a lot of textural things that we see. All right, cool, that's good. We're gonna leave that for now because we're gonna cover a lot of this. We can always come back in and add more blue. We can play around with it, it's okay.
I like mine. I may not cover it.
You don't have to. Can I show them what yours looks like?
Yeah.
So let's see what Jenny's looks like. She's really got, this is a really cool way of doing clouds, and it actually looks a lot, I like it. It's not showing up on camera very well, I don't think. Like, I think it looks amazing in person, but on the camera, it just is not quite as exciting to see, but it still looks really cool. All right, so what we're going to mix up next is we're going to mix up a really deep plum color. So we're going to do our blue. We're going to do red. I'm going to go ahead and add some turquoise. And let's add a little bit of yellow in there just to tone it. So we really get this deep plum color. And at first what we're going to do, I'm going to add a little bit more yellow to it because I almost want it to get into kind of a grayish tone. Oh, I got too red. Just going to keep mixing.
Everybody in the pool?
Everybody in the pool.
So we got red, we got blue, what did I miss? What else?
Turquoise
and yellow?
And yellow, yeah. And really we're just going for dark.
Okay. Oh, is this for the cloud colors that are coming in on the left?
It is, but it's also for the outer part of the sandbar here.
Okay.
And so I'm just going to very lightly kind of add some extra darkness out here. It's a little bit more yellow in it.
Oh, thank you, Kim. I always like it when I do a good job with the Paul painting. This style's so different than mine.
It's always a challenge to paint each other's paintings, and that's something that is it's good because it pushes you to do things like any skill you do, we have a tendency of falling into just doing what makes us comfortable. Like if you're learning how to play piano, we do the songs that we know we can play versus doing songs that are going to make us work harder. I do that with guitar. That's why I'm really good at 4 songs and not so good at other songs. But it's all skills, you know.
Are these rocks we're putting in here?
Yeah, it's more just like it's not no.
But
actually,
don't paint rocks.
It's not rocks. It's
Okay.
actually just more substance to our sand.
Ooh, there's a new telescope out there. Danny was just saying we should do a space type of picture, like
I've done some.
nebula, galaxy.
Yeah, we've done some of those.
Not with the Go Box though.
No, but we have in the studio.
Time to do one for Go Box.
Yeah, there's that new one that's like puts Hubble to shame. All right, so we're going to use the same color for our clouds, and our clouds are kind of, I'm going to add just a little bit of white to this. Our clouds are kind of a development process where it starts and we kind of layer a little bit. So I just added just a touch of white to this, and I'm just going to start up on this top left-hand corner. And what I'm going to shoot for on this is where we need to be really loose and light pressure.
I think my color's too light.
It needs to be darker than your sky, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's like the different color but same tone, so I need to darken it up.
So what I do as far as getting this to look more cloud-like is I'll kind of dab a bit, wipe my brush off, and then just kind of, I'm using just kind of like the corner of the brush, and just very lightly just kind of fluffing that paint around a bit.
Wow. Kim lives 1 hour north of Cape Canaveral.
We
And
were
you
just
can
talking
see
about
the
that.
launches. Yeah, yesterday I've been working with my daughter and her
Well, we weren't talking about Kim
world
living
history
Kim living
class.
an hour from.
Yeah, we weren't talking about that. My daughter's a 10th grader, sophomore, and she's been doing world history, and right now we're doing U.S. history on the 80s and Reaganomics and all that. And we learned about the Challenger, and Paul and I were both like 11.
Fifth grade, yeah.
Yeah, and we totally remember like that was just so. I was trying to explain it to my daughter about how emotional that was.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
Fine.
As we work down the canvas, we want to get a little bit less aggressive with the size of this. So up here, we're going to be bolder because we're closer in theory.
Hey, will you show your original real quick?
Yep.
I want to see how far we're going with these.
Now, I'm not going to get quite as aggressive with these clouds because I want some of that upper stuff like what you paint, like you liked.
Yeah.
To show through. So as I work my way down, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to use less paint and I'm going to be smaller. When I get over closer to the left edge of the canvas, I'm going to kind of let these kind of blend together a bit. And as I work my way down, less paint, less pressure.
And clouds are typically kind of flat on the bottom, the way you teach
flat
them.
on the bottom, kind of scrub up. We'll get into other cloud shapes, I think, eventually. But for right now, these are good starter clouds. Don't think about painting clouds. Just think about these shapes we're working on. And you can even just kind of smudge out this bottom corner a bit. So that's kind of what we got going on there. We're going to do a little bit on the right side as well. And especially with those upper level clouds, we want to just reestablish that that they're up high. So we're going to, I'm going to have to mix a little bit more paint. Kind of threw you guys a lot this month.
Threw us a lot of what?
A lot of trickiness.
In your painting?
Yeah. Well, clouds always are.
Your next month one looks a little tricky too.
I actually think next month is easier.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll show it here in a minute. Show both of ours. So I'm going to be a little lighter on this side over here. I like to get some more going up in the upper corners. You can have some little breakaways here and there. But it is Ireland. So it is like the Pacific Northwest coast. There are going to be clouds.
More clouds than sun.
Yeah. Our best time of year for sun is like October.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Let's see, I gotta scroll. Kim taught biology to 9 10th graders for most of her career, lived in New Hampshire when the Challenger blew up. The teacher in space lived in New Hampshire, my husband's hometown at the time. It was very sad. Yes, that's what I think that was so hard as a kid, because it's like, the teacher died.
Yeah, there was so much hype about it. And I remember, like the school, because we were on the West Coast, so it was pretty early for us, but I remember that the teachers had rolled TVs into our classroom so we could follow the coverage of it, and then it was like, yeah. We know what happened. All right, so we're gonna just kind of let those clouds hang out. We will come back and get some more texture on those, which will make them a little bit more impactful. I like the extra busyness in the sky. It kind of matches the busyness in the foreground. And what we're going to do next, let me just check my sheet here. We're going to use a little bit more of this same color, and we're going to start to create some rocks and actually our little peninsula that's out in the water here where our castle hangs out. And one of the things that I think is really important when we're doing paintings, especially because these are fairly small canvases, like normally I would recommend if somebody were to say, oh, what size canvas should I get to start on? My answer would be as big as you can
Feel
get.
comfortable with?
No, because as we know as comfortable as some people, I've seen people like their idea of big is this, but I would say like minimum 18 by 24.
Whoa.
Just because the smaller the canvas is, the harder it is to accomplish what you want. Because the detail work and the fine brush work just gets more intense. So one of the things that I think is really important is when we're doing a landscape like this, it's really easy for the painting to feel small. Like it's a small painting, it's really, it's really easy to overwhelm the canvas. And so by doing this castle very small, it makes the whole thing feel much larger. Like we're in a much more panoramic, large setting versus a lot of times like the winter pond one we did where it's all foreground and it just feels like everything's like right in your face, right? So we do it this way, so we know that this is a castle, so that's got to be huge, which means this is a long ways away. So it gives the whole painting more of a sense of feeling bigger, if that makes sense. We are going to work some turquoise and stuff in here too to just add some color. All right, so we're going to start creating this land mass. We're going to mix up a little bit more of our dark color. I think it's live music next door. They must be still celebrating St. Patrick's Day.
Could be the wine bar too.
It could be. Or it could just be somebody with their car stereo. I don't know. I'm going to do a little bit more yellow.
So we're doing red, cobalt blue.
Everybody in the pool.
Everybody in the pool.
Except white.
That's your favorite color, this painting.
It is, because it's how we get our darkness.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to start just a little bit, maybe a little bit to the, let me look here. Yeah, just about a little bit past the third of the way in, and
I just have to test mine next year. Did I get it right?
About halfway between our end of our sandbar and our horizon. And I'm just going to really just kind of sketch.
What is it that you're painting here?
We're doing the peninsula thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so just kind of sketch, mostly kind of going horizontal. But I like to keep my brush moving side to side when I do this because it simulates interaction with the water. And I'm just going to kind of now bounce it up a bit. And I want this to get up.
Ah, there's where your castle's gonna sit.
I want to get that up into the horizon a bit.
Your castle ruins.
Yep.
So it's almost like you kind of stair-stepped it up there a little bit.
Yep. And in fact, if you look at the original, there's actually a couple little rocks.
You paint rocks so, like those land formations so easily.
I don't put much thought into it.
That's the problem. I think too much about it. Like, oh, how does it look when I'm in the gorge or...
Yeah, I mean, it's just really, it's like, just think about, like, unevenness.
Mm-hmm. Jaggediness.
Yeah.
Think about Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what gets you thinking in the right direction. I mean, that's something that's like, we have, I played video games a lot growing up and stuff, and our daughter inherited that love for gaming, and one of the things that's been amazing is visually how dynamic video games have gotten, in particular in the last 10 years, I would say. But they're really inspirational. I mean, you see some of them, it's like, wow, it looks like a painting, or it looks like a photo.
Mm-hmm. And then our daughter's like, these are such bad graphics.
These are bad graphics.
And we're like, if only you knew. Like,
yeah.
Atari was our first, and you had, what was it?
In television.
In television.
Yeah, and then Nintendo is like, Greta, let's play the original Legend of Zelda.
And then we'll talk about the graphics.
Yeah. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to create balance. And so one of the things when we start talking about composition of paintings is you do want to create balance, but you usually, like when you're doing land masses like this, you don't want it to be the same height across. You want one side to be higher. There's some old school techniques that you see in a lot of paintings where you literally have a big dark mass on one side and something about 2/3 the height on the other side. It's about balancing, but also like it creates like a triangle kind of shape, and so we're going to kind of create a little triangular shape here. So I'm just going to, on this right hand side, just going to kind of reinforce some. So Jenny, you might want to watch this part.
Sorry, I'm reading the comments.
Yeah, that's fine. So I kind of start thinking about like where the rocks start touching the water, and I just kind of build up, leaving gaps.
Daniel said he thinks Skeletor lives there.
No, it totally looks like the old Skeletor castle.
And Kim, your comment about purples being much gentler than blacks. Absolutely, it looks so much better.
So one of the things, the same teacher I had that was my teacher when Challenger blew up was a art nut.
Is she the one that looked like Tom Petty?
No, that was my biology teacher. But she was obsessed with Claude Monet. And so our whole classroom was Claude Monet, Claude Monet, Claude Monet.
Oh,
she
cool.
did whole sections on Claude Monet. And so she was one of my favorite teachers growing up, and that was before I was really into painting, but she really impressed upon us, you know, the importance of art. And in particular, I fell in love with Claude Monet's work. And one of the things about Monet is he never used black. And the reason for that is he and his beer drinking buddies, they were all studying together. And when you studied art school in the 1800s, when he was doing it, a lot of what you did is you did paintings in studios by candle and oil lamps. And so a lot of the paintings, if you look at the paintings prior to the mid 1800s when Monet was around, I think he was around, 1860s? Somewhere in there?
Something like that.
And prior to that, paintings were really dark, heavy with black. And Claude said, hey, when I go outside and I look around, I don't see black in nature. You don't. You see ravens, you see crows are black. But even then, they're reflecting other colors. So he said, let's get rid of black. Let's use other colors to create the darkness, because when you see like trees, sometimes they give the impression of being black, but they're not really black. So he did not use black in his paintings. He used mixtures of other colors to give the darkness and the depth. So, okay, I'm getting long-winded on that, sorry. We can take now our number 8 brush and a little bit more of this color here, and you can kind of come through and just add a little bit more substance to some of these clouds if it feels a little too soft. I actually kind of like the way mine looks, so I'm not going to worry about that too much, but if you feel like you need a little bit more darkness, especially up in these corners, this again, it balances top to bottom. Let me just see where we're at. We're looking good here. Let me just make sure we're all in the right spot. Okay, so let's rinse this brush. We're going to start bringing some of the water in down in here. And at first what we want to do is I really want to pop up some of the turquoise. So yay, we get to use some turquoise. When I was looking at some pictures of Ireland, amazingly there's a lot of turquoise to the water. So number 8 brush, little tiny bit of turquoise, and I'm really going to start
Always kind of putting this in between and
Yeah.
just dabbling it in here and there.
Yeah, I got a little too heavy there, but you can always wipe your brush off and pick it up a bit.
Kim, you've caught the painting bug. She said let me talk again. Since she started painting, she sees the world now in colors and thinks about how she'd paint what she's seeing.
That's awesome.
Got the bug. That's great.
So I got a little too heavy with the turquoise there, but that's okay. I'm not gonna. I like it to be there. And what I like to do is kind of build it up a little bit, kind of around this transition, and then just lightly. I'm just pushing the paint up. I'm not really adding more paint. Just kind of pushing it up into our water a bit, and that just adds some nice little warmth. If we lose anything, we can always paint it back in. It's no big deal. Boy, that music outside is distracting me, actually. It's actually making it a little bit difficult to focus. I'm sorry.
You want me to go yell at him, Paul? We're painting in here.
Like, I'm used to painting with music. But it's like live music filtered through a wall. So it's not...
You know, I think it's Hit Machine.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I think that 503, I saw it on Facebook, right, that they were having Hit Machine come out.
We know those guys.
Kind of.
We've worked events with them before. They're kind of a local band, and they do pretty well, actually.
Covers.
Yeah, they get some pretty big venues and stuff. They're just a cover band. Not that that's a bad thing, because I would love to be in a cover band again. So if you get too much turquoise, it's okay, because we'll just come back.
That's great.
What?
She's been bit hard by the painting bug, and it's thanks to us. I love it.
So I'm just going to come back, not trying to...
Oh, Celeste. I'm so glad to see a younger person joining in once in a while, too, because art is so good, especially at your age. It's amazing.
How old is Celeste?
12.
Oh, awesome.
I've been painting since they were 8.
Nice.
I'm going to try that.
So I'm going to take a little bit of white now. And really, I'm just having paint on the tip of the bristles. And I'm thinking about little ripples and splashes. And letting this kind of mix with some of our turquoise. So if you get your turquoise a little bit too heavy. But I'm going to hold this up. I'm going to do our classy fade. Zoom in. And
you can see that he's got, like, you know, thin spots of white on there. And it's a Monet. Up close, it's a little messy.
Yep.
From far away, it looks pretty darn good.
Yeah, and so
comes together.
Yeah, this is the part where you really just kind of want to... I'm going to put a little smudge here, and I'm going to leave it be.
And that's like one of the hardest things to do. If you overthink stuff, you'll think about it a lot. Should have gone back.
Yeah, and we'll get some more like defined bits. But one of the things that you can really do is like down in these dark areas, you can make it look like, oh, there's a little tide pool here, just by putting a little dab of water. A little dab of white. Yeah, that would be water.
Like the sky is just sort of glancing off of those little tide pools.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one thing I struggle with, because I've seen you do this a lot, I struggle with knowing where to put them. Like, do you just put them, like, do you find a little spot that looks like flat, or do you just paint it over the dark void?
Put it over the dark void. Mm-hmm. You know, and sometimes you do look for little spots that are like, oh, it just looks like it should be there. But, you know, it doesn't have to be that thought-provoked. I think it's like Kim was talking about seeing the world through different eyes.
Okay, apparently there's a buffalo in your paint palette.
Oh, I see it. I totally see it. Like,
this one looks kind of artsy.
Actually, it looks like Beauty and the Beast. See, like, here's his nose right here. Oh, it's Chewbacca. Here's his hair coming down. His eyes like right here.
Funny.
His hair's... It's Chewbacca with some pomade. So you can do as much or as little with this as you want, and it's all right. But I think the main thing is not being afraid to just kind of let the paint exist. You know, I just put a little smudge there. Leave it be. Don't blend it out. Our instinct is always to blend everything out. We want to break that a bit. We'll come in with our smaller brush and do some more interaction with some of the rocks.
I think one thing that's nice to know too, and you have to remind yourself once in a while, you can always paint over acrylic paint.
Yeah. Well, especially like this foreground part, because up in the sky it's a little bit more difficult because the sky tends to, for some reason, get discolored and muddy looking. Mm-hmm. And you don't want the sky to look muddy. But this area down here, it's okay if it looks muddy. Mm-hmm. Because that's kind of what we would expect to see.
It's a character from Doctor Who.
It is. Mm-hmm. And if you guys have ever... We've watched some Doctor Who, but the one we watched was the Van Gogh episode.
That one is so amazing.
And if you guys get a chance to watch just that one,
yeah,
you don't really need a lot of other context to watch just that one. But
I actually cry when I watch that one because it's so neat.
It is really neat. So one of the things I noticed is I need a little bit more of our dark in the foreground because really I want this area to feel like we're kind of standing on some cliffs looking down. And so... Man, it is cold in here.
I know. Where's our heater? Let's scoot it up. It's like not doing any good way back there.
Come back here, friend. It's our little R2 unit.
You.
Oh, that's better. So I'm going to mix up some of our dark color again.
So we're back to the big brush?
Back to our big brush, yeah. And what I was looking at is I'm looking at my finished painting here. And I'm seeing, we've kind of got some flat areas here. So we put grass and stuff on the top of these. That's how we kind of give ourselves some feeling of cliffiness.
Cliffiness. There's a new word.
I think there probably is it probably is a term like Cliff Claben.
Cliffiness.
Do you know who Cliff Claben is, Jen?
No.
It's from Cheers.
Oh, you know what? I never watched Cheers much.
You what?
No.
That needs to change.
I mean, I saw some episodes. Obviously, I lived in the '80s. You can't not. But
we need to watch Cheers. If you have not watched Cheers, it is. Yeah. All right. It's one of my favorite shows. All right, we're getting close, guys. Really, we've got a lot of it done. We've got a lot of glare on this today.
Mm-hmm. It's the dark colors.
Yeah. We maybe need to evaluate how our lighting is set up. We're actually thinking about moving to another different part of our studio.
Yeah.
We might do that.
Depending on how the lighting works.
Yeah. Biggest problem we've got is most of the rest of the studio has a lot of windows. So this time of year, it gets dark pretty late. So we would well, that wouldn't necessarily be bad. Just the view out the window isn't necessarily as great as we would like it to be. We'll do some testing. How about that? We'll do some testing. All right, so this painting is actually getting really close to being done. We have the castle left to do, and then we have some green to put in. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. I'm looking at our steps.
I like the green. The green is really a nice touch.
So we've got some work to do on our clouds a little bit. Oh man, I keep doing that tonight. I feel like I'm in a fighter jet cockpit here. It's just like it's tight. All right, let's switch to our number 4.
Is that our second smallest?
Second smallest. It's right about a 1/4 inch. And I want to soften up the edge of our clouds a bit. So I'm just going to take a little tiny bit of white. And you can kind of just come along the edges here. And what I like to do, let me find a good spot to do it where you can really see what's going on. Right here. I like to kind of just go along my edge, wipe my brush off, and then just kind of...
And you're just using pure white?
Yeah, just kind of soften this into...
Ooh, just stick my thumb in the purple.
What was that old nursery rhyme about sticking his thumb in the plum pie or whatever?
Little Jack Horner sat in the corner.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm surprised. You know what is really cool, you guys, speaking of that, I don't know if that was a Mother Goose rhyme, but we actually got to go see Mother Goose's grave in Boston. That was super cool. And we went to the Cheers bar.
We didn't go in.
No.
So what I do is I kind of go along my edges, and this one, because of the light's kind of a little bit more, where it's coming from is a little bit more obscure. You can really soften these edges up as much as you want. Kind of gets lost a little bit in the extra white we did in the background, but that's okay.
I think it's good for my brain to do your paintings.
Like, I don't think I'd do too much of this white. It's getting too busy. It does kind of help.
It'll kind of take away from if you have some good wispy white clouds in the background. This will take away from it. Yeah, but if you have harsh edges to your dark purple clouds, it's a great way to soften them. What I did too is, I'm just gonna take control of your.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
No, I mixed white with this color and made a really pale lavender. You can see it over here.
Yeah, you can do that.
Here you can show where it is right here.
Yeah, and just a small amount.
But you can go over anything that's too dark. Yeah,
or you can, if it gets too light, you can go back over it. You know what that is the nice thing about not having black on our palette? You can, black is once you use it in a color, it's really hard to make adjustments.
But yeah, I think that the white feels too harsh. Just mix up some of that really pale lavender and use it instead.
Yeah, and it could even just be like a medium lavender, just lighter. But just use your own eyes. Like, say, okay, is it too harsh? And maybe don't make that decision right now. You could maybe look at it tomorrow and go, well, maybe I do need to soften that up a bit. But you can see when I'm painting, there's not a lot of technique going on here. It's really just attack the canvas with the brush and just kind of let it do its thing. Scribbly. All right, so that's okay. That's good enough like that. I don't want to get too much. I think what happened too is I had originally done the clouds maybe a little bit too dark, and so we softened them up. But I think that background that we added changed that a lot, so it's not as necessary. Okay, castle time, guys. Castle time. So the castle is really, I'm going to zoom in. If you look, there is not much going on there.
It's rubble and ruins.
So what I think of is kind of like one main tower. I'm just going to use our dark color we used for...
You're using your number 4?
Yep, number 4. So I'm just going to think of one main tower.
And it's the dark purplish. Yep. Purplish. Everybody in the poolish.
Yep, one tower. Then here's a little wall, and it's broken. Let's pretend there's like a little church building here, so maybe there's a little triangle. And maybe what we do is we just add some little jagged little vertical shapes. That's really all we need to do. Less is more on this. It's a really old broken down castle, so it doesn't need to be anything real precise. In fact, less precise is better. And we'll add some definition to that with some highlights in the end here. Maybe I'm going to make my castle just a little bit, the tower a little bit taller.
I felt like I needed that too. It felt like too much like it was belonging to the rock.
Do you smell what the rock is cooking?
Frank Lloyd Wright would be proud because it would be of the hill.
But I think you have to be careful because if you get too big and it starts looking like a lighthouse.
True. Well, you just build the walls up taller around it.
Yep, exactly.
This is where I need to be more less detailed because I want to make this perfectly little detailed thing, and it doesn't fit right.
So we're about 30 minutes from downtown Portland, 35 minutes, and our studio, when we had our actual paint studio, was in Portland.
Yeah.
Both of them were.
Yeah. Southwest Portland and Southeast Portland. Both of them about 10 minutes from downtown. On the fringes.
Yep. So yeah, we're basically Portlanders.
But right now, where we're at is out in they call it Napa Valley of Oregon, which I'm happy with that. There's a whole lot of wineries and vineyards out here. It's really nice. Can't complain.
Yeah, so this here guy has been a good friend of mine for 20 years now. Isn't that crazy to think we've known Dan that long? And he used to live walking distance from us when we actually lived in Portland up until 18, 19 years ago. So now we just live in the suburbs.
I'm overworking my castle.
Don't work it. Don't overwork it. Okay, let's do some green. To do our green, we are going to use primarily our turquoise and our yellow. And we're going to use our number 4. It is... I'm glad I put sweatpants on. My legs would be freezing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm just going to use primarily yellow, a little touch of turquoise.
What brush are you using?
Number 4.
Okay.
And I'm kind of going for
Wow,
this.
that makes a real vivid green.
Yeah. I want this vivid green. We can always add a little bit more. Actually, if you want to tone it down, you can add a little bit of cobalt.
Maybe do like both, and you could have some toned down grass and some...
Well, what you can do is you add a little bit of cobalt and you kind of get more of a darker green. And then you can add the brighter pops. In fact, you can add even just plain yellow to create extra little pops. So I'm thinking of all of this green as being kind of like it's laying in flat shelves.
This is like golf course green.
It is.
So it's laying in flat shelves. Now, why flat shelves?
It's sitting on top of the flat areas rather than the areas that are broken down. So you can create...
So again, like painting over the void?
Yeah.
To create these?
Yeah, so like this foreground area here is a great area to add quite a bit. You can come across.
Yes, Daniel, you did help us move.
Oh, that's right, he did.
From our very first house, which was 1,000 square feet, tiny little thing, to our current house, which I thought we would live there maybe 10 years tops, and we've been there almost 20 years.
Yeah, 19 years, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's the way it works when your kids start school. It's like you don't want to move them out of the community.
Well, we got really good schools, so...
Yeah, and we were within walking distance, which is really nice. And on a cul-de-sac.
Now, when our youngest, who's the sophomore this year, when she's all done with school, all bets are off.
We get a farm and Paul can raise lots of fish.
Raise lots of fish.
A koi farm.
I think I'd stick with the bettas. I need a betta barn.
Oh my gosh. That's a good, fish store name.
The betta barn.
Trademarked.
I'm trademarking it right now. So one of the things you can do to really pop this as being green is just add a little hit of yellow. You can just do some pure yellow even, and it just pops that out as being something that's really green. And I like to do it kind of patchy. Now we can do a little bit of this up around the base of our castle as well. In fact, we want to, for sure. Ooh, that got a little acidic. That's okay. Don't get too far down in here because this is, there's seaweed and stuff, so it's not like it's, that painful if you get some of it in there. But one of the things I like to do is this right here feels like there's a rock right here. And so I can work this grass in and around it. So it leaves, I'll brighten that up so you guys can see that a little better.
These are the rocks that if you step on them, you're breaking your ankle from slipping.
Yeah, these are all algae covered. This is not actually grass, it's algae. No, I'm just kidding. But be really loose and rough with this, because it's one of those things that if you get too controlled...
Close your eyes and do it.
Yeah, I mean, you could. Because what you don't want is you don't want it to feel too uniform. And it's really easy to get too uniform with this. And I'm just going to take a little bit of just plain yellow here now.
And I like how, like, in some areas you've gone a little heavier than others. Like, this is kind of a heavy area right there. And then,
yeah.
Like, some of the others, you just have a little more of the background color showing through.
And that's the key to, like, I think in general to landscapes, is letting it be uneven. Letting it be a little bit broken and...
Not over blending.
Yeah, and not too manicured.
Nature doesn't blend.
Yeah. So I like the way this looks. I'm not real thrilled with this right here. I've kind of got 3 stripes, and I don't like that look, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix that really quick and easy. I'm going to take my number 8 still here. I'm going to take a little bit of white. And there, I just broke it up. Made a little mound there. Right, how are we looking time-wise? Wow, we're only an hour and 16 minutes into this thing. We're cooking. Now we're playing with fire.
Good, we need some heat.
Mm-hmm. What a messy painting. And compare it to
Speak for yourself.
Compare it to the original. Actually, my original is even messier.
Let me see. So your clouds are more soft in the original, but let me see your foreground. Your foreground is more soft in the new one.
Yeah, so I actually think this area up here, I could soften, because I feel like that's...
So show us how you do that. You've got time.
I do have plenty of time. So this area up here feels a little bit too intense, and I think that's actually what happened with the original when I was painting it too. I'm going to soften that top part. So I'm going to mix my colors. A little red, a little turquoise, a little blue, a little more blue. I don't want it to be too red. A little white. So going more of a softer violet. Just a little bit. And all I'm doing is I'm not using a lot of paint. I'm thinking of this as being more of a glaze. And what it does is it softens, takes some of that texture out. Do the same thing on the other side here. And it takes some of the intensity out. So it's still got the structure underneath it. So you can see the structure's still there, but by adding that little soft haze over the top of it, it just makes it a little easier on the eye, a little less intense. And this is where you can kind of, if you want to play around with softening and lightening it.
I can hear your brush screaming out in pain. Help me!
So if you ever want to break out of the need to be detailed, just really take note of how I paint.
With a lot of noise.
With a lot of noise, and just But when I do that, I'm not using a lot of paint. So that's one of the keys there. All right, so we can kind of get into some of our final detail work now. And so we're gonna use our smallest brush. Just make sure it's pliable. So if you need to rinse it and get it so it's nice and flexible. It's always never hurts to have a little bit of moisture on it.
My watch just reminded me it's time to stand.
Oh.
Greta says it's petty when it does that.
I'm busy right now, watch. Leave me alone.
Quit being petty.
So I'm just taking a little bit of this white, and you can use it to kind of define some areas. Like these rocks right here, they need a little bit of interaction with the water, so I'm just gonna kind of create some little ripples in there.
Little water breakage.
Yeah, and I try to, when I'm working like this, we're gonna kind of bring some more ripples into this foreground, but I kind of keep the brush going side to side constantly, and then just move where my hand is while it's going like that. Excuse me.
Can we paint it a leprechaun?
Yeah, you can if you want to. I did that with one of our paintings that we did on a St. Patrick's Day. I hit a little pot of gold. That's been one of the things that we were really always meticulous, very conscientious of in the studio. Is we liked to do St. Patrick's Day paintings, but we never did like a big pot of gold with leprechaun
or a giant
shoes,
shamrock.
or a giant shamrock. We typically did. Paintings like this. I did one that was like...
I loved that one, the paint and fiddle one.
Yeah, it was like a table with a window and looking out at a scene like this, and leaning up in the corner was a fiddle, and then there was a pint of beer on the table. And
it was extremely complicated.
It was...
We only taught it that one time.
I think we taught it twice.
Really?
Yeah, 2 years in a row. It was a fun one, though. I mean, I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
It was really early on. And
you have a great weekend, too, Kim. Thanks for chatting with us tonight.
Yeah, but we had we were still learning.
In Florida.
Yeah, we were still learning what could be taught in the studio, what couldn't. But that was a fun one. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
There, that's adding our busyness, and you can do a little bit down in here too. You don't want to get too busy down in the foreground, because this is where, like, really the water is receded from it. That's good. That's good for there. You can take the same brush. You can take a little bit of yellow. You can add some... I love this technique right here, by the way.
What's that?
Just take a little bit of pure yellow. And just...
It's funny, it looks white on the camera.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's the glare. But it just adds this great little pop. Just pure yellow. Just a couple little hits. Little hit machines.
Full moon tonight.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It is. Go howl at the moon, guys. But we can't really see it. We have too much of a thick cloud cover.
So just some little pops of yellow, and it just, I love this look. You don't want to do it kind of on the backside of this the castle, because it's casting a shadow, but it just gives the suggestion that
there's little gold coins laying everywhere.
Yeah.
We found the treasure.
That's exactly it. No, it's just some little pops of highlight. And really, to me, for some reason, this is maybe just me, but when you've kind of got a greenish base, if you add a little hit of yellow, it just brings out the green. It just makes it feel more green. I don't know why. Because a lot of times I think green is a hard color to work with, honestly.
I think I am going to sign mine.
Oh, wait, we're not done.
Oh, we're not?
We got to do a little highlight on our castle.
Oh, I already did that.
Oh, you did? Overachiever. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of white, a little touch of yellow, a little touch of red. Let's add a little tiny touch of turquoise just to tone it down. We're kind of going for, again, like kind of a used silly putty color.
So weird. That's such a weird analogy.
You know what I'm talking about, though, when I say that, right?
I guess so.
Didn't you used to take silly putty and use it to like transfer like the newspaper?
Yeah,
You could like
I
take it
that.
and you could do like, well then the ink stays in the putty and then when you roll it up it gets muddy.
That's a gross color.
It is. And all we're gonna do is we're just going to...
Gonna highlight your castle with the gross silly putty color.
Yep.
I'm gonna use a little ears.
Not much. And you could actually even like, if you wanted to mix up a dark violet color, you could even like put a couple windows back in.
Ooh. Now we're getting crazy.
Hold me back, we're getting crazy up in here. You can add a little tiny bit more white if you're... No,
You could turn it into Hyrule Castle.
Jenny, you are obsessed.
I've been playing that game a lot, so like everything like I see is like, oh, that looks like that from Breath of the Wild. That looks like that. It's so funny.
Jenny, who finally discovered video games in her late 30s.
My late 30s. Thank you. You're scoring points tonight.
I'm trying. Always trying.
Oh boy.
So yeah, there's our castle. We've got some little highlights on the side of it. Boy, this is such a messy painting up close. It's hard to do our zoom in and really
Without
show.
cringing.
No, I don't know. I don't cringe, but
No, I think it looks good.
yeah, I mean you can take
I actually really like mine a lot.
you can take a little bit of white on your smallest brush and add some more, you know, out in the ocean, but very little pressure. I feel like it's tea time, so I like to throw my pinky out just to remind myself to be dainty.
I was thinking golf.
Oh, well, that comes into play too. All right, so that extra little glow out there at the horizon kind of just helps pull the eyes through. Yeah, our front camera's still dead.
Okay.
Well, it was unplugged. I don't know why it was unplugged. Probably when I set the new computer up.
I'm sure it was something.
So we're gonna sign out. Let me sign that. I'm gonna sign first, then we're gonna sign out. And I'm gonna sign right here. Let's take a look at Jenny's, see how she did.
You're gonna take your palette.
Take my palette and slide mine off to the side. So Jenny, yours is, oh, I like yours a lot. Yours has got a lot
I
more.
like it a lot too.
That is one of the roughest landscape paintings I've ever seen you do.
I was proud of myself for that.
Yeah, this area right through here is really good. It's
I wanted to leave some of that kind of
sandiness.
Yeah, that muted.
Yeah, this is a great sand color. It really is a taupe.
The only thing I don't like so much is my castle's a little too sharp.
Oh no, that's fine. It's got exposed beams and all that fun stuff.
No, I mean like not like sharp, pointy sharp.
Oh,
like
too crisp.
Too defined. Yeah, too crisp.
Too crisp.
Like, yeah, it doesn't match the like this down in here.
The only way you could soften that up just by doing some.
I did that on purpose. Yes, I made it look like it was raining on the left side there.
Well, you did.
Just by brushing my. I was just responding to Daniel.
Yeah.
By brushing that light color back at an angle.
Yep. Turned out good.
Yeah,
I like that. That's this area, like in particular. Actually, the whole thing is, it's the roughest painting I've ever seen you do, and that's a good thing.
Funny. Well, good. That's actually a goal I've been working towards. Is not like over defining everything. And then we've got next month.
Yeah, let's talk about next month.
Next month, my painting is so completely different.
I'm gonna set these aside. Why don't you take yours? I'm gonna set mine over here.
I'm gonna give mine to my mom.
Let's talk about our paintings next month. Yeah, Jenny, yours is defined.
Oh, look at that. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so last week I talked about this painting. One of my...
I'm going to turn off this side light and see if that looks a little better.
The young lady who helps me out packing the boxes, she's amazing. She does a ton of work. She requested an alpaca. So
Yep.
I painted, I think 5 4 or 5 different alpaca paintings until I came up with one that I knew was teachable and kind of whimsical, and you can pick your own colors and just have fun with it. Whimsy is really fun to do once in a while, and I think it's a really good breakaway from doing all the
This one is going to drive me nuts.
Maybe we'll see.
It is going to drive me to the brink of insanity.
I love it.
I really like I saw your other versions that you made, and I did like the one that you did was like a pink face with a green background. I thought that was fun.
I gave that to Stephanie.
Yeah, but this one I like better.
The pink face with green background was a little too detailed, and it was going to take too much to teach it. It would have been like a 3-hour event.
And then I love the addition of the wish.
Yeah.
So that's a good one.
That was originally a pink flower. It just didn't look very good.
Yeah, it works. And then mine, trust me on this one. This one is easier than the painting that we just did. I know it doesn't feel like it is, but one of the things that we talked about, this is tilted by the way because it was really glaring. One of the things we talked about right before when we were painting these is one of the things that in my mind I try to think of ways to make these paintings like this simpler to do. And to me, simpler is just like, okay, let's not work. Blending is difficult, so let's not blend. Let's just slap paint on here and slather it on. And I know that's more difficult for people mentally sometimes because they want to blend and everything.
Yeah.
But from a technique standpoint, there's nothing really tricky with this particular painting, but it's the individual steps of simple techniques all blended together that give the overall impression. So don't be scared.
You can do it.
You can do it.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. And if you, there's still time to get in on that box. If you decide you want to try out the subscription, you just have to order by March 31st. And
by midnight, March
31st. Or you can wait a little bit, and if you like the lavender field, but maybe don't want the alpaca, you can order that, or vice versa. You can buy single ones or the whole box if you didn't want to do the subscription. So that's all on gobox.com, and you can find, gosh, we're getting close to over 100 projects on there probably.
Getting really close.
Yeah. Lots of things to choose from, lots of kids' paintings. But we found that kids actually do well with a lot of the adult paintings even. More than anything, they learn a little and they have a lot of fun. So, yeah. So we'll see you guys in April, if not sooner. I've got a painting I want to do that's out of the box. So, yeah. Thanks for joining in. Have a great weekend and keep on painting.
Keep on painting and do all that fun YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe, drop us comments, follow us, all that fun stuff.
Yes. And thanks for joining in, Celeste. We loved having you and everybody else too.
And we'll see everybody next month.
Bye.
Bye. Go to Monarch.